This is Hannibal from the Hannibal TV, live here with a longtime ring veteran. He's wrestled all over the world. I've seen him wrestle here in Canada numerous times when I was growing up. He now lives in Hawaii. Good friends with Jimmy Superfly Snuka, WWE Hall of Famer, the Metal Maniac. How are you today?
That's right, brother. This is the Metal Maniac, and you are worldwide right here at the pinnacle of professional wrestling, Hannibal TV, you chubby dummies. Stay tuned, brother, daddy, brother. We got a lot to say, and this is worldwide. I mean, I'm not just talking about Canada and the United States. I'm talking from India to Hawaii to New York City, all over the world, from the shores of Pensacola to the sands of Waikiki. Get it right, the Metal Maniac on Hannibal TV.
And you, of course, wrestled Jimmy Snuka many times. I've seen you wrestle Jimmy Snuka personally live back in 1996 at the Super X in Ottawa. You wrestled him twice that day. But I know you wrestled him all over the U.S., and you were actually good friends with him. So this is going to be about Jimmy. You wanted to set the record straight on some things. So I'll let you talk about Jimmy Snuka, starting on how you first met him.
Absolutely. I came to Hawaii. I was met. I don't know if you remember the original Islanders. It was Haku and Siva Afi. Siva I met after he left WWE, and he was doing some stunt work for Burt Reynolds, and I met him in Florida on vacation. I was a musician, and I was on vacation from working in the music business, and one thing led to another. We became friends, and he said, listen, you know, your voice, your body, you look like a wrestler. You really should be in. And I said, well, I thought I looked like a bass player in a band. He goes, well, maybe you do, but you know, you belong in wrestling. And one thing led to another. Ended up in Hawaii, hung out with King Curtis, met Don Morocco, and Morocco said one day, hey, kid, you know, look, you know, you really need to get off the island. I was like, damn, I just got here like a couple of months ago. What am I going to do? Why am I leaving now? He's like, there's nothing here. Go. So I made some phone calls and got booked. And I had met Jimmy here earlier before that, when I first got here at the gym, that was an open air 24-hour gym right in Waikiki. And we met, but he never saw me like this. He saw me like, you know, with my hair back, my face washed. And then when I went to ECW, I walked like an idiot, you know. I didn't know anything. I walked right past all the boys. I don't shake anybody's hand like I don't know. And I walked right up into Jimmy's room and knock on the door. I go in and I brought him, you know, the Hawaiian Samoan wraps and the slippers that said Hawaii on it and a whole bunch of little things. And I said, brother, you remember me? He said, well, kind of, sort of. It's hard to tell with this. I said, well, you know, I'm friends with Siva, and I know King Curtis, and, you know, Don Morocco told me, make a couple of calls and get yourself booked, which I did. And I said, listen, I really don't know anything. I'm brand new, and I mean, I can talk, and I'm in pretty reasonable shape. I said, but I don't know anything. And it was at ECW when it was still called Eastern Championship Wrestling. Paul E wasn't even there yet. And it was just an angle where I run in and I'm supposed to run in, hit Jimmy a couple times, and he headbutts me. I go flying out. And then just before the finish, Tony Stetson hits me with a chair, and the splash comes, 1, 2, 3, and set up for the next day. And so then, you know, we went back to the hotel and we were talking, whatever, eating and stuff. And the next day came a small little match where it was like a double DQ, but I didn't know anything. And so, but I knew to listen.
We lost your audio for a second.
Wait. Something happened here.
Okay, back now. The last thing I heard you say was listen.
Oh, he said, listen, he said, you know, the following weekend, there was a match, and I on the same show with Jimmy was on, and he saw me do something, and I hurt my knee a little bit, and I said, go home. my family was there, and he had overheard that in the locker room, and so he said, "Brother, come on back to the room and we'll talk." So I go back to the room, and there's food there. We're hanging out, and he said, "Bro, why did you do this and why did you do that? Because you should have." You should have, went outside and fought all the way back if your knee was hurt. And I said, "Jimmy, I really don't know." He says, "Yeah, but you've been in the business long enough." I go, No, Jimmy, listen, I don't know anything. I've never had any work before. My first actual in-ring action was with you giving me the headbutt in that angle. And then the following day, we did this little like push shove kind of thing where the boys pull us apart for a setup for the following month. And then this match with Hillbilly Cousin Luke. He said, "Well, wait a minute. You mean who taught you how to hit once and flex?" Because at that time I was in really good shape. And I said, "Well, I watched wrestling when I was a kid, Superstar Billy Graham, and then I, saw Don Morocco work with you a lot. And then you guys didn't chase each other around. It was more like you hit him once and you just stood there and walked really slow. So that's what I did." He goes, "And you've never really worked?" And I go, "No." And he said to me, and this was his exact words, and I'm going to imitate him. He goes, "Brother, I've been in this business 25 years, and you fooled me." And I was like, "Oh, bro, I wasn't trying to fool you. He goes, no, listen. If you would have been out there maybe 2 more minutes, I'd have figured it out. But you weren't out there but 5 minutes, and we didn't get in the ring for more than 1 minute and then a pull apart. So I really didn't know, and you fooled me. So now I have to help you." And that's how it started. And the first thing he did is I didn't know Jimmy wasn't able to read or write. I didn't know that at that point. And Jimmy had to be a piece of paper. He goes, "I want you to call this number." So I don't know. I'm calling Angelo Savoldi. I don't know who I'm calling. He just said, "Call this number. Tell him Snuka wants to talk to him." So I dialed the number. "Yes, sir. My name's Jeff. I'd like to have you speak to Mr. Snuka. He's sitting right here with me." "Okay, fine." He gets on the phone and Jimmy says to him, "Savoldi, Snuka, I got this kid. He's gonna bring me in. He's gonna stay at the hotel. He's gonna take me to the gym, bring me to the building. You got 5 shows. I want you to put them on all 5, and I want you to put them with me. All right, with me, all 5." And so the guy, I guess on the other phone, said, "Okay." He hung up the phone and he went like this. He had his sunglasses on and he went, "Wow, it's done." Next thing you know, next week came the 5 shows and I was booked on all 5. And then it just went from there. Not too bad for the first week in the business. That's like kind of swallowing a grand piano if you think about it for a young wrestler that didn't know nothing. I mean, I just knew how to take a bump and then sell a little bit, but I had no clue. I could talk because I had something to say. And like I said, my body was in much better shape than it is, let's say, today. But, but that's what I had. And that was more of a gimmick. And I kind of knew that, I think, without knowing the words back then. And so can you imagine if you're me and you just walk in? I mean, that's literally like swallowing a grand piano for a young wrestler. And then it just, we just kept working and working. Eventually, Jimmy had gotten divorced, and I'm supposing his wife was. I know now she was doing the bookings. I didn't know who was doing them then for him. It was after he left WWF the second time, when he put over the Undertaker and a couple other guys, and went to ECW, and that's kind of right when that was. And within a year's time, he had handled the booking over to me. And then from there, it was Jimmy would get on the phone and tell all the promoters, "Look, this is where you find us at this 800 number." We had a pager, and we, call this number. We'll call you back. We'll book it. And this kid takes care of everything. This is the only number you can book me at. And The first thing that happened is we started to go on overseas trips, like for Oric Williams. I don't know if you remember him in Germany. He had a big thing 6 months a year at the same building. It was like a tournament. And you'd either go in for the first the first 3 months, the second 3 months, or if you were a star like Jimmy, you could go in and out or stay. But that first year, he stayed 3 months, to catch me up. And then he went back to ECW, and he sent me to England through Sal Balomo, God rest his soul. And I was over there with Dynamite and David Finley and oh boy, man, it was a rude awakening. I mean, I came in the easy way. This was a rude awakening on the business, what it meant to have respect. Back then I thought they were assholes, but they weren't. They were, they were going to teach you. And as you know what I mean, you know what I mean? So it's just, that's that. And that was just the start. Pretty heavy.
And you really wanted to clear up. We've seen the dark side of the ring, how Jimmy was portrayed on that, and you had some issues, I know, with some of this stuff. Other wrestlers have said on my channel directly, that's one of the reasons you got in contact with me, because you said you wanted to get the other side of the story with Nancy out there, which by the time you met him, that would have been what? 5 years earlier.
Ways after. Actually, I didn't even really know about it until much later. But what really just bent me out of shape, and honest to God, really, I want this to not just to be about that, but everything about my career is, it's completely, entwined with Jimmy, but I had reached out because, first of all, I loved him. That's my first motivation. Second, anything I might say to you about it, I have to say first off right away, it would be hearsay of the hearsay of the hearsay. But third, most of all, when I did hear about it, it was in the late 90s, but I never asked Jimmy about it. I never spoke to him about it. He never spoke to me about it. It was never a topic of conversation ever. What I can tell you right off the start, from the beginning of about him just as a person, everybody wants to hate. Nowadays it's cancel culture. Everybody wants to hate. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to hate. Easiest thing to do. I mean, it's high time that people start to understand, it isn't just what people write or say. And, if you watch Vice, you already know, unless you're, in La La Land, you already know there's a slant to the Vice product. That's first.
Oh, we lost you for a second. By the way, everyone, as Metal Maniac comes back, I was supposed to interview Jazz today. That has been changed to Thursday. Are you there?
You got me?
There. Okay, you're back.
You got me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, so
just continue on with what you were saying.
An alarm was going off. I shut it off. Forgive me. So the first thing I wanted to say is, like I said, everything I'm going to say is hearsay because I've never had a conversation with him ever about it. But knowing, like I said, that Vice is slanted right out the gate, I knew it wasn't going to be a happy camper type thing. The first thing I want to say is, the way this whole thing just exploded was just made me sick. Second of all, the reason why it made me sick is because I actually knew the guy. I knew who he was. I mean, I spent hundreds of days a year with him. hundreds. Now, you would think in all the days that I had spent with him and nights and drinking and partying and having a good time, you would have think once, just once, he would have shown some sort of anger or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure if me and you hung out, you'd hear me say, oh, whatever. He wasn't like that. He just wasn't. And anytime I got hot about something, he was always telling me, hey, brother, calm down, take it easy, blah, blah, blah. So when they were talking about him, it was like they were talking about somebody, you know, I didn't know that person. I never knew that person. Now, maybe, like I said, I didn't know Jimmy in the 80s. We never had a conversation about that, but maybe he was a little high strung back then. But I can't imagine. Now, what I do want to say that wasn't said, well, first of all, let me, I'm going to jump around here a little bit, so you're going to have to kind of make sense of everything, you know? First of all, the son of Munchnick, nice enough guy, I'm sure. He's a lanceman, I'm a lanceman. But the bottom line is I have heard over the years, while I was with Jimmy after 2005, when he just kind of did autographs and stuff because his ankle was bothering him and stuff, and he was just doing the autographs and only jumping from the second rope once in a while. He was trying to just streamline and just, you know, make a payoff. I had spoke to a couple guys, so, you know, that the original, the father, the Munchnick father, he hated Jimmy. He was jealous of Jimmy. He didn't like Jimmy from when Vince McMahon Sr. was alive. So, you know, it's not any news. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't any news. He didn't like Bruno either. You know, he didn't like Jimmy. A lot of guys were jealous of Jimmy for whatever reason, whether it be because he had a lot of pull with Vince's father. You know, so I knew the Munchnick father did not like Jimmy ever. And anything as soon as the bandwagon to say something bad about him came up, he was there. And now it's passed on to the son. I mean, the son is commenting about somebody he's never really spent any time with. If anybody was going to comment on anything, it should have been me. Vice should have contacted me. And they did. I wonder why. I don't know, but I wonder why. Second, that pissed me off. So whatever Munchnick had to say is a recoil from the father. So, you know, and that's the best that he can do. And if that's the best that he can do, well, okay. I mean, I got nothing against him personally, but as far as his professional work ethic is concerned, he was talking about something he really didn't do anything about other than what his dad told him. And even that wasn't really a clear picture. It was more slanted, just like, you know, slanted, just like the TV show. Okay. The other thing is off the show, I felt like, look, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, and I'm sure she was a lovely girl. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Fuji on YouTube, you can go look it up. If anybody cares to take a few minutes to find out what really was the deal. And I'm not saying she was a bad person because of any of this information, but this information is pertinent. If you think about it, because you'll be able to have once up three, maybe put some pieces together that maybe weren't said or put together on the show. And that was, Fuji said the father was a bookmaker. We know what a bookmaker is. Now, a bookmaker works for other people that are very, you know. So I had met a lady. I don't know her name. I knew she had blonde hair. I knew she was from the New England area, but I don't know who she was. She was one of the people, I guess, that were around Jimmy. And I think it was sometime in, like, I don't know, the early 2000s, I think. She was, I don't know, like I said, I don't know who she was. We were at some place eating or whatever, and a couple of the boys were there after a show, and I guess she must have been at a show. And so, I was friends with this lady that used to go out with Jimmy, who passed away. And yeah, I heard a little bit about it, but it's none of my business. I don't ask. I don't talk. I don't, it's just none of my business. Well, I just wanted to say that, Nancy, a long time before, because, her father was, a big time, why, right? I said, no, but yeah, kind of, sort of. I didn't really know till later when I saw Fuji's interview. And she said, well, she had to stay with me. I said, what do you mean she had to stay with you? And she said, well, Nancy was thrown out of her mother's house. And I said, well, why would she get thrown out of her mother's house? What'd she do? I mean, what could possibly make a mother throw a daughter out of the house? She said, well, now this is all allegedly, like I said, this is, hearsay after hearsay after hearsay. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I'm just telling you what was told to me. I don't know if it's true or not. But if it is, you would think if they would have called me, I would have said that. Maybe they could have found the lady. I don't know if she's alive or dead. I mean, I don't even know if I could have gave them enough information to find the lady. But the lady had told me that this girl who passed away went after her mother with a knife for some reason. I don't know what caused it. I don't know if she was on any drugs. I don't know anything other than that a situation happened and the father said, you got two choices. Either go to your girlfriend's house and don't come back here for 2 years and I'll send you an envelope every month. Or, now, is it true? Like I said, I don't know. But preponderance of evidence, like with me, over the years of hearing what Fuji said on the internet and then what that lady had said. And then there were stories of where someone said that on the show that Jimmy and the girl were naked in the middle of a hotel and she had bruises and then in the report there were bruises. Now, let me just stop there and say, Hannibal, have you ever seen that TV show out of America, the Mob Wives?
Yes, I have, and I've actually interviewed the girl from it. Yeah.
So these are not. Some of these girls are not the sissy types. Especially that one. She'll go after you. There was a couple. They were all mouthy, but there was one that was scrappy. I don't know what.
Right.
But my understanding was that was who she was, a scrappy type girl. And I also understood that she used to go nuts when women would come up to Jimmy and say, "Oh, sign my boob," and he would sign it. She was just absolutely a jealous freak. From what I understand, she was a jealous freak. And but like I said, this is all from like Fuji's interview, and then hearing some guys, I don't even know who said it, just overhearing conversations that were none of my damn business. But in locker room or whatever, at a bar, whatever, just talking about, oh yeah, she was this or she was that. And she was the type of person that would go after. Now, if you knew who Jimmy was, well, forget who he was, but if you knew how popular he was, you had to know women were coming out of the woodwork. And it wasn't just in WWF. It was out in Portland. I heard stories about his conversion van with all the girls waiting online to get in after the show, literally waiting online. Same thing in the Cow Palace area. Same thing in the Carolinas. Same thing out in Minneapolis. Same thing in New York. They're just so okay. So this woman's jealous. Now she's scrappy. Now Jimmy had a body of a god. Now if Jimmy's from Hawaii and then Fiji, he's not a wife hitter. He just was. I don't care what was said. I don't care what they showed a picture of. I don't believe he was a wife hitter. I don't believe he was a wife hitter because he treated my mother's sister, everyone in my family with the utmost respect. Me, always took care of me. Never heard him raise his voice ever. So for me, it was like somebody talking about something else because it wasn't about the guy I knew. So, so getting back to a story about the girl and him in the hotel naked, he's dragging her back in the room. First of all, if my girlfriend runs out of the room naked, I may throw on a pair of pants, and maybe not, because Jimmy was sometimes famous with Bill Apter walking around naked in the Hilton Hawaiian Village on the floor where they had the whole floor, and going hanging outside and suntanning. He was suntanning naked. I mean, I heard that story from Bill Apter, but so it didn't sound funny to me that Jimmy was, in his birthday suit, because he really was like Tarzan in New York with a telephone or with his clothing or whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me if she ran out of the room or was pissed off or wanted to make a big stink. They said she was bruised. Well, if you're scrappy and you try to kick Jimmy in his shins, you're going to have a bruise on your shin. If you try to hit Jimmy with your fist and you hit him and he don't touch you, but your wrist is going to hurt. If you're a female, your wrist is going to hurt. If you try to smack Jimmy and he moves and you hit him in his head and your forearm is swollen because you hit him, well, yeah, the guy's built like a god. He's as hard as a rock. You hit him in an elbow with, and you bruise easy. Well, you're going to have bruises. I mean, that made sense to me, thinking of who I knew and the stories I heard and about her prior. And then, yeah, was Jimmy the kind of guy to go out there and say, get your ass back in here? What are you, crazy? Yeah, but that I don't see that being abnormal. And she went and dropped the charges because she damn well knew, in my mind, I never met her. This is years after, never having a conversation. But this is in my mind, in my heart, in my stomach, my mind. It just tells me, I could see Jimmy going, get your ass back in this room. What are you, nuts? And dragging her back. Okay, fine. The cops come, and it's over with. Then a week later, they're saying that, Jimmy's going to the hotel, and Jimmy says she went to take a piss. And first of all, right there, I need to stop you. Everywhere we went, and then I'm telling you, can ask any of the independent guys that drove with me and Jimmy, they'll tell you the same thing. I'm sure there are New Jersey state troopers who remember this. I'm sure there's one or two Massachusetts state troopers on the Blue Route who pulled up behind a car, found a man urinating on the side of the road, and found out it was Jimmy Snuka, and they stopped and went, you're Jimmy Snuka, and went and shook the hand he had piss on. Now, and signed autographs. We opened his brother, opened up the trunk and give him autographs. I used to say, Jimmy, can't you just wait? We're on the Garden State Parkway. Can't you just wait? We're on the New Jersey Turnpike. Can't you just wait to the exit? We'll go to the thing. Cops are going to pull up on us. Brother, pull over now. I got to piss my prick. Otherwise, I'm going to piss in this bottle. And I hated that shit because that was gross. So I pull over. So it makes sense to me that they pull over on the side of the road. It's snowing. It's cold in Allentown. And she's got to pee. She's embarrassed to be right up there in between a door, on the other side of a door in a car. It wouldn't be a stretch for me to think she went down a little lower and urinated and slipped and took a hell of a bump, and he gets her up and she's hit her head, and he says to her, listen, you should go to a hospital, and doesn't. She's got a concussion. He don't know. He could barely speak English. I mean, he spoke baby English, could read, could write. I think he stopped school like what? It's 5th grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. So something like that. Some early age. I know it's in his book, and I know I'm in the book, but I've never read it. For what? I lived it. So, it just made sense to me. Now, as far as Tonga Kid saying, oh, I was in the car with him, I just think he just remembers differently. And I'll tell you why. Jimmy and him were very close. And one time he saw me with Jimmy, and I had a rent-a-car, and him and Big Sam, we were on the same show, and he said, hey, bro, can I use the car to go get something to eat? And I said, yeah. I gave him the keys to the car. Jimmy said, that was awfully nice of you because it's a rental, if it gets crashed, you're going to have to eat it. And I said, yeah, but, you should be okay. And it was fine. But he looked at me and says, brother, I've been in your spot before. I know exactly where you're at. Because, Jimmy and him were very close at one time, and they were a tag team. And I'm positive from Jimmy telling me, I used to be close with that bro. He says, I love him. Nevertheless, I've known him since he's little. I used to be very close with him. But, I had a tag team thing, and I was trying to, stay with the tag team so I could elongate my career, not hurt my body so much, and teach him. But I guess Tonga wanted to be on his own. And then he had made I guess he had spoke to Vince about more money, and somehow ended up not there. And Jimmy was still there. So I think what happened is he just misremembers because it's a long time ago. I think that he was with Jimmy all the time. But at that point, even the TV show itself says that, in fact, she was driving him around because they weren't together anymore, him and Tonga Kid. They weren't at one point. So she was the one who was driving him, which made sense because he can't read the exit signs. He doesn't know the names of the towns. So all of that makes sense to me. And I just think he remembers a little bit differently. God knows. I mean, my girl, I've known her 25 years. I talked to her about the first day we met. She's like, that's not what happened. I'm like, what are you talking about? Sure as hell is. Oh, no, that's not what happened. And we'll go back and forth year after year about what was said and what was done the first day I met her. So, so it's not, he didn't say anything wrong. I think he just think he misremembers. And that's quite all right because his heart was in his interview. I will say the words that were used in the show, like he could have been Hulk Hogan. I love Hulk Hogan. I would never say a bad word about him. But let's face the fact that before there was a Hulk Hogan, Superfly Jimmy Snuka took the business to a point where the USA Channel the next morning, after blowing the roof off the earth, was signed to a deal, and that deal still exists today on the USA Channel. If I'm wrong, correct me. But
just to interject for 1 second here, a fan had a question earlier, and it's relevant now. What did Jimmy talk about when he would bring up Hulk Hogan? Did he actually like Hulk Hogan when he would bring Hogan up to
you? This is my understanding. Jimmy always had nice things to say about Hulk Hogan. He did tell me about a little bit of a argument type tiff prior to WrestleMania 1. Wasn't a big deal, but he did tell me about it, and I can share that with you. I don't think Hulk Hogan would mind because it really wasn't a big deal, but it was a situation. You can go online and you can look at the night that we'll talk about. And anybody can look it up on YouTube. Look it up. It says Snuka Hogan versus Morocco and Orton, and it's at the Boston Gardens. And what a match! And Jimmy goes for the flying crossbody. Morocco catches him. They're going over the top backward. I'm sorry, Morocco staggers back and throws him over the top backward like this. But as he comes past, Orton bops Jimmy in the head. Well, Jimmy's on the floor gaffing. And Hulk Hogan's making the comeback. They're running in. Boom, clothesline, slam, flex, pop. Another flex, pop. And then all of a sudden there's a pop that's like, wow. And then all of a sudden, wow. And it's Jimmy. And he's on the top rope. And his blood is just gushing. Meantime, you don't see him. The magic is happening in the ring, but the real magic, because Jimmy was, and he went around the side, nobody knew. And the next thing you know, people weren't looking at over here. They were looking here. Then all of a sudden, boom, they're looking there. And my understanding was, as Hulk said to Vince, hey, bro, got the strap now. I'm going around. I can do this on my own. And, kind of Jimmy's kind of stealing the heat. And this is right around the time where Jimmy had said, look, let's bring in Mr. T. He could be on the outside with Bob Orton. And I don't know if you remember. I don't know how old you are. And you may be old enough, but you might back then. I don't know how old you were. Or when you saw me, I don't know how old you were. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
37. So when I saw you, I was in grade 8. I remember that.
You're in 8th grade. So you what like 12 or something?
Yeah, 12ish. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so this is way before that. So you were really young. So, um, uh, you know, Hulk said that to Vince, and I guess Vince had spoke to Jimmy. Brother, man, maybe we put him on thing because it is kind of stealing his heat, and Jimmy felt like he was snubbed, and said to Hulk, what the fuck? But Jimmy was already pissed off at Vince about money. Not money he wasn't promised, but money he was promised. There's a lot of stories about Jimmy going to a building, looking up and saying, "Not tonight," and go back to the hotel. And then they'd give him his money, and then he'd come back to the building. Because there were guys Jimmy told me there were guys who thought Jimmy was making $20,000 weeks. Jimmy told me he was making $40,000 weeks. And the buildings got bigger and the checks were getting smaller. And then eventually, between Bruno holding them up for whatever reason he had, and then Jimmy doing that, and then Hulk didn't do it a lot, but a couple of times he had to. And then the Ultimate Warrior, he did it a couple of times. And then that's where Vince said, that's it. I don't want to depend on any one guy. My team shows up, my team draws no matter who's there. But getting back to what was the guy's question, so I make sure I answer it. What was his question?
He wanted to know, like, when Jimmy would bring up Hulk Hogan to you, if you detected any heat.
No. Like I said, he talked about that moment, and what happened is Jimmy knew he was going to go and leave the WWE the first time, right after WrestleMania 1. He knew that. So he had told them, put Mr. T in the ring. I'm going to stay outside the ring. And they're like, what? And then right after that, he went up. The Hulk Hogan issue was not the issue that Jimmy was upset about, but it was just the last straw for him in a numerous amount of things that had nothing to do. And Hulk Hogan, and I saw Hulk Hogan and Jimmy hug each other in '96, in 2001. Nothing was ever, nothing until this day. Hulk Hogan has nice things to say, and Jimmy never said a bad word about the guy. Kidding around once on a trip, he said, he's a big pussy. But he didn't mean it. He was just kidding. I mean, he was just kidding. Iron Sheik, on the other hand, for a while there, you don't know. I can't believe it, Bubba. Put the brother over. Never talk to me. Can't believe it.
Rocky Johnson had actually told me in a shoot interview before he passed that Jimmy would have probably got the Hulk Hogan push if it wasn't for the unfortunate, I guess, personal issues he had. Obviously, a lot of wrestlers had it, but allegedly, for some period of time, it was more out of control with Jimmy. By the time you were hanging around with him, was he pretty much over that phase, or was he still partying?
That Rocky Johnson said that he would have got the big Hulk Hogan push?
Yeah, Rocky said similar to you that Jimmy was actually over more than Hulk Hogan before Hogan got his big push.
Well, this is the thing. Everybody remembers what they remember as they see it. I wasn't back then at those times, but what I do remember as a wrestling fan, Jimmy was the first guy to ever have a doll. Jimmy was the first guy ever to have the Nerf fingers. Before Hulk, the next guy wasn't even Hulk. It was Hacksaw with the Nerf, with board. And I do know at one time, not now, but when that building on Route 95 in Connecticut was built, they had certain equipment. I think it was editing, television and editing, and I think it made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. And this is before Hulk Hogan's popped his big money cherry. And all of that was made on Jimmy. So to say that he didn't get the Hulk Hogan push, that's like saying, tomato, really, because Jimmy was the highest paid guy in the world. Jimmy brokered with his body, and along with Don Morago, But, you know, it takes two to tango, and Jimmy was the one jumping. And yeah, Don had a catcher, but Jimmy was jumping. I mean, it was definitely a two to tango thing, but let's face it. I mean, you know, Jimmy blew the roof off the earth. I loved Rocky Johnson, but, you know, he was middle of the card. He was middle of the card, you know, him, S.D. Jones, Tony Atlas. I mean, they'll all tell you. And if well, God rest his soul, Rocky, I worked with him once. I mean, he was cool. He was very cool dude. Very nice man. But I'm just saying that, you know, I mean, to say he didn't get the Hulk Hogan push is like saying, what are you talking about? Where were you? I mean, like I said, everybody has their own angle from the chair that they're sitting in. Like me, I have my own angle. Everybody reads his book, or they have their own angle. They're in the smart marks, or they're a superficial wrestling fan. Everyone has their own angle. You know, I mean, you have your own angle too. What you thought, what you didn't think, what your gut feelings were. You had your own. Everybody's entitled. You know, everybody's a free world. Everybody's entitled to have their angle. But to say they didn't get the Hulk Hogan push was like saying, I mean, like, what are you talking about? First doll, the first Snurf fingers, the building that was built that was in the Guinness Book of World Records, all on. Now, don't get me wrong, Morocco sold out the Garden, I think, 18 months in a row, all by himself. But, you know, Jimmy had his own team. Because remember, Vince split it up into teams. Tito went with Jimmy to Japan, so he'd get that different type of work rate going. Although, I mean, but Tito was way young at that point. He was extremely talented. Like, and he's a wonderful gentleman. I've worked with him, and he's like, look, no sweat. I mean, literally no sweat when we worked. So he was being groomed at that time to have his own team because he was hot. So you had Jimmy's team, Hulk's team, and Tito's team. And who made the most money? Jimmy's team. So, you know, I mean, like I said, everybody has their own angle, but the fact of the matter is, what I just said isn't my opinion, or what I thought from looking outside at the time into the business. It is what it is, and the numbers were the numbers. They speak for itself, and everybody knows who's privy to those numbers, that in fact, what I just said was true, that Jimmy was the Hulk Hogan of his time. There just wasn't movies and all that stuff, other than, like, you know, 007, you know, they always had a Samoan guy in there, and Peter Maivia was in there. So, you know, that's, you know, that of what was available to you at that time.
There's a fan on here, the Big Bo Fetty, asking, when Piper hit Jimmy Snuka with the coconut, did it do any damage to him, or was that all the work? Did he ever talk to you about that?
So many people. I mean, even Piper worked it to the very end. I mean, I mean, seriously, folks, when you're working the workers, you really know the damn gimmick is over. Jimmy worked on that thing for days. He scored and scored and scored the inside of the coconut for days and made it thin and thinner and thinner, and then, you know, put all the lines in it and held it together with a little bit of the coconut that was dried in a little water, and he put it inside of it and he held it together and just right. And Piper picks up one and you hear it drop, ba-boom. Piper picks up another one, ba-boom. And he picks up the other one with two hands and holds it. He's cupped it. And when he hit him with it, you see a little bit of the brownness from the camera. He hits him with it and it explodes. Now look, I live in Hawaii, so I guess, and most Polynesian people will know, you break a coconut over someone's head, the coconut's not going to break. That's why Polynesian people's head is harder, because they lived in an area where these huge coconut husks, not the coconut, but the husks, they could, when they're ripe, they drop right off. If you're under one, you could be killed. So, you know, they just genetically, you know, have a much harder top of their head as to where Most human beings have the heart is right here. Somebody try to headbutt you, you put your head down. This area right here is the hardest. Oh, like amateur wrestlers know that when they lock up, they try to bang you in the head. So that was a work. And it was a good work because people right there, 35, 40 years later, Brother Hannibal, 40 years later, they're asking a question like that.
Yeah, it's not like today where they'll break an angle in the middle, break kayfabe in the middle of an angle like they do now, and then they expect you to still be interested. I saw Piper right up before he died on Howard Stern, still denying that his matches were choreographed. So different time. Now, what about, we won't get too much into Morocco, but a lot of the fans wanted to know Jimmy's relationship with Morocco.
As far as I know, they had a wonderful relationship. Don was much younger when he got into the business. I think he was in his late teens when he got into the business as compared to Jimmy. Jimmy, I think, was 27 when he first broke in, 26, 27 from what he told me. Jimmy was Mr. Hawaii. And at his funeral, I had never seen this picture, and I have it, and I'll send it to you. It was a picture, and if you covered his face, it looked identical to Arnold Schwarzenegger's side chest pose. I did not know it was Jimmy. It just looked like Jimmy's face that would put on a body, but it was Jimmy in his mid-20s. He was Mr. Hawaii, and he was invited to the universe, and then the wrestlers told him, hey, forget that. You could have the best body in the world. If they don't like you, you're not going to get in here. Your body, your athleticism is just going to speak for itself, and you'll be able to make a living. Not just, go there and be a bodybuilder, because what is there? Because back then there was no go to the movies. You know what I'm saying? There was just 007 where they always had a Polynesian guy there being or an Asian guy there, or a wrestler being the heel, with the hat and the thing and all that. So no, but I know that they knew each other. I know that they hung out a bunch, and I also knew they worked out at the same gym together. I knew Jimmy always was friendly with the wrestlers, and when you live in Hawaii on this island, everybody knows everybody. So, I kind of listened to what Don said. Oh, I knew him a little bit. I think he knew him a little bit more than he actually said, which is not saying anything bad. It's just the way it is down here. So, people surf in the same spots. You get to know people, you get to know people. And, Don didn't live on the North Shore when he was a kid, or maybe he did. I don't really know. But even if he did, the North Shore, it's like 20 minutes away. So it's not like, you're 13 hours away or a 12-hour plane ride away like you and I are. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, for him to say he really didn't know Jimmy, I'm sorry. I can't swallow that, but that's not saying anything bad about Don. It just means that, again, another situation where, you see things from your point of view, but in actuality, I mean, how do you not know the guy who was here? How do you not know? He's in California, you're in California. You're in Portland, he's in Portland. You're in Minnesota, he's in Minnesota. You're working there, They knew each other. They knew each other. More than just hi, bye. They knew each other. Sorry. I just think that they knew each other.
Guardian of Chaos is wondering if you're in the New England Hall of Fame.
I believe surely during the Angle days when Don was doing some of the writing for The Office, for that particular angle that was about to come up, they knew each other pretty damn good. Now, that was kayfabe back then, so heels and babyface didn't drive together. They knew each other pretty damn good. Doesn't mean anything other than they knew each other. I mean, I don't understand what was the big deal. They knew each other.
There's a fan wondering if you're in the New England Hall of Fame.
What's that?
Are you in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
I was asked to be in it in 2007 and 2008, but I would have had to have flown in. And at that time, I was taking a year off for wrestling, and I really needed the year off. I needed it. I was out of shape. I had cervical spinal fusion in 2001, and my neck was bothering me, and my traps were spasming, and I needed to take some time off. And so I was asked, and I wished I would have went, but I was asked, and I don't know if they put me in or not because they never sent me anything, but I was asked, and I did spend a lot of time up there, not just for Kowalski, but for Silvana Souza and another promoter he worked for himself, and several other promoters in Massachusetts that I had worked for with Jimmy, and went up there and worked and had a great time. It was a lot of fun. We used to love to go to the Hojo's up there. It's not a Hojo's anymore, but it's really cool hotel where all the boys used to go and Revere, Mass at the Circle. And right up the street was a Chinese restaurant. Then right up the street was an IHOP, and then and a Denny's too. And then in the hotel, they had a bar with a pool table, and then they had a sushi restaurant too. It's perfect, right? Perfect. So right after the Boston Gardens, or Independence, like at that point, we would go there and hang out and have a blast. It was a lot of fun. You didn't have to worry. You could drink and just go right upstairs, and go and crash out. So, it was a lot of fun to be in the Massachusetts area. I will tell you one story that was really great. There's this one town, I think it's Worcester. I'm not exactly sure, but we're up there and we work a Friday night, and Jimmy's the baby face, I'm the heel. I do my spiel, blah, blah, blah. Jimmy comes out, he's over. We started hot. Boom, 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 bam, 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 whatever. Fine crossbody, unless he was getting a 750, then he would do the splash. So, whatever. First night, we do a nice job. Everything's fine. Kowalski's happy. We go to the next town. The next night, I walk through slow like a heel, and they cheer me. And somebody hands me a coconut, and I'm like, oh, shit. They're turning me babyface. So I go in and I get up on the corners holding up the coconut, and they're cheering me. And I'm shitting my pants because I've never been a babyface. I have no clue how to do it. I don't really want to do it, but it's getting shoved down my throat. There's nothing I can do. I'm in the thick of it. Jimmy comes out, and they're booing, and I got to do something. So I know enough. Get out there and go get them, because where we're going to start ain't where we planned on starting. So I figure, well, Jimmy's going to know. I'll open up. He'll hit me, whatever. So I jump out and I come at him, open up, and he hits me, boom. And they're booing and cheering back and forth. And I grab a headlock. I'm like, brother, what the hell are we going to do? He goes, just listen. Give me a big tackle, drop down, give me a big clothesline. And I do, and I give him a big clothesline. He staggers back and throws himself over the rope and bang into the railing. They popped, and I see Jimmy. He's holding his head, and I see his fingers go like come here. So I get out, and he says, just work me over. So I did, and boom, boom, boom. And then finally, he picks me up, gives me the backbreaker, and that's it. And he splashed me 1, 2, 3. He gets his hand raised. They're booing. So they're booing him. And I don't know what made me do this, but I tell the referee, I can't feel my legs. And the guy's like, what? You can't feel your legs? And he's freaking out. He's waving, and he's got the EMT guys coming. They think it's no big deal. They're walking down. He's like, for real, get in here. Now all of a sudden they're like, whoa. They slide in, they get in there. And I'm like, I can't feel my legs. So what they do is they put the gimmick on me, and they put the board under me, and they slide me out, and they pick up the thing, and they put me on it. And as we're going out, they're cheering me. They're cheering me as I'm going out to the ambulance. And they take me in the ambulance about halfway down the road. I said, get off him, pull over to take me back. I made him take me back without the lights on, go back on the other side of the building. And I said, they had to sign the papers, and I said, keep your mouth shut. I know where you work. And I said, we won't say anything because they, I was pretty jacked up then. And I looked right at the guy and I said, say a word and I'll come up here, I'll find you, and I'll give you a licking. I wouldn't have, but I told him that. And he believed me. And I went back inside the building. And Jimmy's like, brother, what'd you do? I heard all this cheering going on. What the hell did you do? I said, bro, you didn't hear the ambulance? It took me all the way down the street. So, oh, that's what that was, all that grumbling and all the... I said, yeah. He laughed. We're both laughing. He's like, brother, he said, Kowalski came in and said, I think the kid got hurt for real. He said, you were working the workers. Even Kowalski was worried. Fun stuff. You're one of the boys. You know how it is. It's fun. Sometimes shit just happens and you have a great time. You have a great time. And I got to say, I mean, getting back to the thing about Jimmy and the TV show and the things they said about him, let me tell you something. Jimmy loved baseball. My mother loved baseball, and she'd never been to a game. He asked her, you want to go to a game? Because I can make it happen. And I'm looking at him like, how's he going to make it happen? She said, you want to go? She goes, I really like watching the games home because I don't have to go to the, thing and park the car and walk in, and my legs are not so good anymore. He goes, don't worry about it. They'll take care of us. She goes, really? Because my mother those first couple of years, she had no idea about wrestling. She knew who Antonio Rocco was, but that's it. She was a baseball fan, period. She didn't understand football. She was clueless about wrestling and thought I was nuts going into it because I went to music school, so she really just didn't really get it. But she loved baseball. So he says to me, sure. He says to me, I want you to call up the Yankees. I want you to get us some tickets, and I want you to get us a good seat, and I want you to make it happen. I said, okay. Next day, I called up the Yankees, organization, and I said, my name's Jeff Miller. I'm a professional wrestler, the Metal Maniac. I work for Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Really, all I did was answer his telephone for him. I wasn't working for him. People just, make up all kinds of shit. I just helped him along where he couldn't read or write. I mean, that's pretty much it. And I just said, I'm calling on behalf of the, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. He'd like to come see the game. He has a woman who is elderly. He's probably going to need a wheelchair service. And we'll need 3 chairs because, I'll be part of his security team, just 3 of us. And they said, that's very good. And they said, this is where you go. This is what you do. We drove there the following week. They said, hey, you can't park. And as soon as the cop seen it was Jimmy, he goes, oh, yeah, we heard you were coming. Pull in here. We pulled the car in. Here comes the guy from the Yankees. He's with the jacket, and there's like a page. And they put my mother in the thing. They rolled her all the way to the seats. And where we were sitting was in Steinbrenner's, not in the box. Jimmy said he wanted to be along the first baseline. And we were able literally to reach out and touch the top of the dugout. And then this is where my mother figured out how famous Jimmy was they said when the game started, before the game started, they said, ladies and gentlemen, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And she didn't look at Jimmy. She looked at the TV, the big screen, and saw Jimmy on the screen and heard the crowd. And that's the minute she realized, holy shit, my kid is in a good spot. Cool, right?
There's a fan on here asking if you ever worked the Sandman.
Oh, yeah, it's on the WWE network. I still didn't know jack shit. Sandman still was wearing a zip-up surfer suit with a boogie board, and it was pretty straightforward match. He sold for me as soon as he took over. He did boom, 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 couple little things. And then, he goes over on the top. He give you a big clothesline off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. Pretty basic, pretty simple. It's on the WWE network. I didn't have the correct boots. I didn't have the correct knee pads. It was probably 1994, and I still was extremely green, not as green as I was in 92, in the middle of 92. And it was And then there was 2 other matches. I had one against Morocco where he goes over. He really didn't give me anything, and but Paul made me sound great, but I was horrible. And then Jimmy went over, but he gave me a whole lot, pretty much. And instead of splashing me, he just cross-bodied me out of the corner, and then small packaged me. I kick out. He small packaged me 1, 2, 3, so he didn't squash me. And I think there was one other match on the TV where it was the franchise, but before he was the franchise, he was still Shane. And it was Shane, Jimmy, and Don against me and 2 other guys. They took it on the other 2 guys. They let me start the match where each one of them took a bump, tackle, and then I got in headlock again, shot me off, boom, tackle. Don took a bump, and then I got in again with Jimmy, boom, tackle, drop down, leapfrog, double chop, boom, boom, and then the other guys came in, and then the melee starts, and then one thing leads to another, and then I got thrown out. One guy got pinned, and then they left me strong. But those are the only 4 matches that were there. And like I said, I mean, I didn't know anything. I mean, I really didn't. Even though I had been with Jimmy now for a little less than 2 years at that point, still didn't put it together yet. I still hadn't been able to settle down and hear the people rather than just hear white noise. I wasn't developed yet. I didn't have my complete gear. I didn't have my complete character yet. I wasn't really, you know what I'm saying? I hadn't matured yet. You know, I was still in less than 2 years.
There's a fan on here asking, what heavy metal music do you actually like? Obviously, you're a fan with the Metal Maniac gimmick.
Well, look, you know, when I was younger, heavy metal, the words heavy metal came out, and that really didn't represent what it represents today. I mean, back then, the heaviest metal you had was Zeppelin, then Van Halen. After Zeppelin went off the scope when the drummer passed away. So when Van Halen took over, Eddie Van Halen was a freak. There was no Steve Vai. There was no Randy Rhoads. He was a freak. And that was heavy metal. Not the songs they had on the radio. I'm talking like, you know, the Van Halen 1, there were some songs that never made the radio. Van Halen 2, there was a couple songs like Light Up the Sky, never hit the radio. The songs were too long at that point. The radio went from playing 17-minute Yes songs and Rush songs. Well, Rush hadn't even popped their cherry yet, really, as far as the radio is concerned. I think Judas Priest was considered heavy metal. And at that point, there wasn't an Iron Maiden just yet. There was a Scorpions, but they hadn't popped their big money cherry yet either. And this is, you know, you're talking like, what was that Priest album, Unleashed in the East, you know, and Hell Bent for Leather, you know, those, you know, that Unleashed in the East was the live record of the first couple that they had. That was heavy metal. And that was what we loved, you know. But I was a Van Halen guy. Van Halen, Kiss. Started with Kiss. Then it went to Yes. Then it went to Van Halen. Then it went to Rush. Those are my 4 biggies. You know, those are my 4 biggies. Those are the things that I was in love with the most. That's how I learned my instrument, playing Kiss songs when I was like 5. I was in 5th grade, so I was 10 years old. I didn't know anything other than I loved Kiss, and I wanted the same bass as Gene Simmons. And I begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded. And it was $750, and the amplifier was $750. How my mother squeezed it out of my father, I don't know. All that I know is I walked into my music class in 5th grade with a brand new Gibson Ripper with an Ampeg SVT, and I had learned Kiss songs, and that's within a year's time of not doing anything but schoolwork and playing. No friends, nothing. Schoolwork and playing. That was it. And I literally learned, you know, the first 3 albums that Kiss had, and then their live album, Kiss Alive 1. And by the time Kiss Alive 1 hit the radio with Rock and Roll All Night Party Every Day, at that point I knew every song they had up to that point. And then I started to expand from there, you know, with my learning, you know, of how to play my instrument. But I played other instruments too. Like, you know, I fucked around with a saxophone, and I figured out how to play a few things, but I really didn't like it. And then I fucked around because the band leaders needed sousaphones, but the sousaphone's a tuba. But a sousaphone, you hold it like this, and it has the same fingering as a bass trumpet or another type horn. So it was either a tuba or a bass trumpet where you held it like in your chest. And then, but I played with them just to play with them, like piano. I mean, I could play one song, make you think I'm really good, but I'm not. But the bass, that's something, you know, that's what I do. And my ring music, when I first came to the ring years ago, that was all my stuff, but nobody knew. When I was on the Global Wrestling Federation in 1992-3, when I came to the ring, that's what my music was. Auntie Leah Maivia was actually in Dallas, heard I was going to be there. I think I spoke to her about a month before then, and then she was staying in Florida with her daughter and Rocky, and then she flew to Texas and came to the ring with me a couple of times when they were putting me over, you know. It was awfully nice. I loved her. I was very close to her. But yeah, so that was heavy metal. It was Priest and Metallica. You know, that was at a time where no one knew them, and they were trying to get out there. They were still in the shadow of Iron Maiden. And Iron Maiden wasn't on the radio either at that time.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, but I posted a poster in my YouTube stories a couple months ago from a show in Brockville, Ontario, that was random from like the early 90s. It had Nails, the Bushwhackers, Demolition Axe, the Warlord, Triple H, Perry Saturn, and you were on that show, as well as Jimmy Snuka. And like, it was just such a random show to come to Canada. Could you tell us anything about the?
Wait, you have footage of it? You have footage of it?
No, I went. We promote Great North Wrestling events in this arena, right. And I went to this arena to do some postering, and they showed me this poster of that event, and it just seemed like such a strange event to have in like a small town in Ontario with such a mismatch of wrestlers like Triple H on the card and all these legends. And I remember you commented that I think you wrestled Saturn on that show or something.
Well, that was in Massachusetts.
It was for a company in Massachusetts, but for some reason you came up to Canada. It was January 28th, 1994.
Wow. Okay. Well, from what I remember is a handful of guys from Boston went up. It actually wasn't a Kowalski show. It was something called the NWL, and there were no wrestlers that they could get at that time from there up in where they were in Canada. Now you would say, "What are you talking about?" But that was my understanding. I do remember working with Saturn. I don't remember who I worked that night. It had to be Jimmy, because the match I worked with Saturn was probably the day before in Massachusetts. And this is when Perry Saturn was still doing moonsaults, and he had long hair, and his gimmick wasn't as stiff, strong, whatever. He was always very cool. They put me over, and I was like, what the hell? They're putting me over. I'm a wow, you know, that's a dud. I even asked the promoter, don't put me over. No, we'll do this for Jimmy. I'm like, okay. I just wanted to put guys over because the few times they did put me over, it never really went well. It always went better when I put somebody over, you know, and I always felt that way. But I used to come up to Canada only when a company called NWL, Mike Dano, he used to run shows. And he either ran shows for the USO, the military, or the Military's Welfare and Recreation Department, the MWR, or on occasion a spot show. Like the day that you saw me work with Jimmy twice in the same day, I don't know what you remember, but left Jimmy laying the first half like a round, like you do in England where you have a round and then you come back and get him. So as soon as the match started, second came out, boom, and Jimmy took a bump, and we started where the heat left off. And that's how we did that match. So it was really one match. We just stretched it out.
And there was 2,000 or 3,000 people at that one. It was really well attended as well.
Yeah, there was, from what I remember, there was a lot of people there. There was a guy on it. I don't know if you know who he is. People kid him, and he doesn't like it, but he didn't mind when Jimmy did. He looked like Rambo. I don't know his name. Really sweet guy, great body, but he had Rambo hair. He had Stallone's look. I don't know if you remember who I'm talking about, but he was a very good worker, great body, good-looking kid. Wore the headband with the thing down. Really nice guy, and he was also like a co-promoter. It was really nice. It was really nice. And the few times we came up there, there was what's the time? What time of the year is it where it's the summer and there's this big thing where like all these Jamaican people come out and they have all their dressed up gear. They're dancing in the streets and it's a big.
I don't know. I don't think that's my part of Canada. It might be a different
festival. It's a big festival in the eastern part of Canada. A real big festival, and Wendy Richter would be on those cards and stuff, and they were really nice. It was really a lot of fun to do. Really a lot of fun to do those matches.
Somebody's asking if you ever had to defend yourself in a shoot in the ring.
I'll tell you a story. It never happened to me in the States. But I will tell you a story. Like I told you earlier, when I went to England, they used me not because I was a great worker. They used me because I had a gimmick and I could talk. And in England, you have to have at least one American person on the show to say it's an American show. And so I went over for Brian Dixon. And there was the A team and the B team. I was in the B team. You had, guys like the Mongolian Mauler and the Rat Master, the big fat guy. I forget his name. Used to be in the old WCW. I forget his name. And a bunch of other independent guys.
PN News, the Rat Master.
PN News, yeah. Rick Rude beat the shit out of him and stuck his head in the toilet because he was a thief. But that's besides the point. I don't usually talk bad about people, but that particular person. So, I'm over there and, I'm trying to learn. And the first night I met Dynamite, I said, listen, I'm friends with Jimmy. And he said, and Don Morocco, I said, I'm friends with him. And, could you help me out, please? Man, if I'd have worn a different pair of socks or if I would have woke up an hour earlier those days, they would have killed me. They were giving me the uppercut without telling me, keep your chin up, kid. My head is down and here comes the thing. Boom. And they did everything they could outright other than punch me in the face to hit me everywhere they could. They throw me over the top rope and cinch me. And everybody because you work a match and then you work a battle royal, and that's where they get you. And you go over the top rope, but you can't get over. They hook you, and then everybody in the match comes over, and I mean, as hard as they can. They smack you in the back, or they punch you, or they do something to you. My God, I hit the floor and went in the back. I was like, what the fuck? And this was going on for weeks. This is because they were pushing me to the A team because the way I looked and the way I talked, and they needed to have an outright American on the show. A lot of the guys were pissed off because I suck, and all these other guys who need a job, I'm pretty much taking a job away from somebody. But you don't think of that when you're going somewhere. You were invited to go. And they knew I was getting more money than the average guy, because you would get like 50 pounds a day, which is like $70, and I was getting 150 pounds a day. They didn't like it. Somehow it leaked. I never said anything. And David Finley and Dynamite were, man, they were just laying it in, and man, it was just, oh man, one of these nights I remember the Battle Royal, and I was cock strong as fuck. I was benching 500 pounds. They double hooked each one of my arms, thinking I'm going to fucking fight back. I was just there to learn, I was giving my body up. And Dynamite's chopping me. And I mean, bro, I got marks on my chest till this day that are still there from him. And he's chopping me. I'm like, Dynamite, why are you trying to hurt me? Shut up, you fat cunt. And I mean, gaboom, gaboom, gaboom. It was like, oh my God. Finally, just one night, I decided I was either going to buy a baseball bat and skull either Finley or Dynamite, but not together. I was going to have to catch one of them by themselves, which was hard to do. Or I was going to call the English police to come get me, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want Brian Dixon to have a problem. So my last choice, I was very desperate. I called Don Morocco, and I said, Don, I'm either going to, this is what they're doing to me, and I'm either going to skull one of them with a baseball bat, I'm going to call the cops and get me out of here, or you're going to have to talk to them. And he said, I'll talk to Dynamite. I said, no, look, Don, seriously, I know we don't know each other that well. We know each other. We don't know each other that well. But just understand now, if you're not here when I bring Dynamite back to this phone, they're going to kill me. And I meant it. He said, no, I won't do that. I won't. I said, please don't, do that to me. Please. And he said, okay. So I went to Dynamite. I said, Dynamite, you sit next to David Finley. I said, Morocco is on the phone. He wants to talk to you. He goes, Don Morocco's on the phone. He wants to talk to me. I go, yeah. He said, do you know what's going to happen to you if he's not on that phone when I get there? I said, I told him that. He goes, okay, kid. Your life is in my hands right now. And he meant it. And he picked up the phone, and I'm standing right there. And he used to call Don Blue as a kidding around joke, because when they made him a babyface, they gave him blue boots. And Don never liked it. He just did it because he was professional. He was asked to do something, and he did it. And he said, Blue, you know this kid for real? Yeah, listen. And Don told me, he said, listen, we need him in one piece. I need him with his hair. I need him with his gear. I need you to teach him, chop him, forearm him, teach him. But I need him in one piece. Between me and Snuka, on the road, trying to get some bookings, this kid helps Jimmy. And on occasion, I fly up. Sometimes I'll stay at his house or whatever. Can you help me out? Help him, teach him, forearm him, but don't set him on fire. I need it. And so Dynamite looked at me and goes, you're the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And then it was cool. He would make me go down to the ring at 1:00, and he would show up and say, do this, do that, do this, do that. And it helped. I mean, it helped. And they put me with guys who actually were willing to, had the patience to teach me, because, he didn't want someone else that had real patience in the ring to teach him. He wanted somebody, who was on it. He didn't want to teach. He wanted to just work and do what he wanted to do. And that helped me a lot. But when I went back to the B team, what happened was the Mongolian mauler, Peter R. Miller. I was already at my wit's end. And prior to that, Jimmy's cousin, Siva, who brought me here to Hawaii, who got the Peter Maivia tattoo, and he's the one who brought me to Hawaii. He was Peter's nephew. And, he was an unknown Haku, meaning he could kill you too with one touch, 2 fingers, like Barb. But Barb's sweet, kind. Yeah, everybody's heard Barb, smacked a couple of guys. And Haku obviously is the man. But Siva would never ever put his hands on anybody for them to know. But he was a master, Sifu, Kung Fu, and was in Vietnam, was with the SES, which was a special force of the reconnaissance force for the English heavy guys. And he was, I got him booked through Dynamite. He said, "Oh, see, we'll get your books." You got him booked. So he's on his way over. He's on the flight, and we're supposed to pick him up from Gatwick the next day. And I get back to this house, and it's like 12 hours away from pickup time. And this guy, Peter R. Miller, I don't know what he did, I don't know what he said, but I took a boiling, scalding chicken and I stuffed it in his shirt and it scalded him. And I'm standing there with a bucket of hot water. I'm ready to throw it on him. And he takes out a switchblade. He said, "I'm going to kill you." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "Because Siva's going to be here in the morning. Don't believe me? Go call Auric Williams. Go call Brian Dixon. Go call him up. Because if I'm not alive and I'm not in one piece, I guarantee you this Samoan guy hunts you, he finds you, and he takes your eye out, and he'll eat it in front of you." Then he runs out, he goes and calls and finds out. He finds out, he tells PN News. PN News comes to me, "Oh, brother, listen, man, you got to call this off." I said, "Oh, no." I said, "I already told him already. He made fun of the Samoan tattoo." "Big mistake," told Siva. "What?" He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, he was telling me last week, trying to upset me, get me all." So I kept telling Siva, reporting, "What's going on over here? What's going on over here? Get me booked. I'll fix it. The next day, we're on our way to Gatwick. All of a sudden, the van is going the wrong way. We go to the other airport. There's two, London, Gatwick, and then the other one. I forget the name of it. Well, why are we going here? Siva's not coming in there. Well, the Mongolian mauler was being dropped off. He was going to Germany. And when he got out, and I started yelling, "Hey, you can go to Germany. It's not going to help you." Meantime, we get to the other airport, and here comes Siva. And they're like, "Look, he looks like Jimmy Snuka too." I said, "Yeah, but much more dangerous." So he gets in the van. He's like, "Let's go, Chubby." I said, "Thank you, Green Banana. Let's go." Now all these other English guys in the back, they see and hear we're close. And that night, nobody wanted to work with him, so they put this guy named Blackie in there. Blackie took a nice little shellacking, for them guys, and he wanted to let them know. So at one point, they go outside. Siva picks up the old, you'll know what I'm talking about, the old lath chairs. Do you remember where the wood, it's all wood, comes together, it's real thick around the edges, then you have the lath in the seat.
Yeah.
Remember those chairs?
Yeah.
He picks the chair, he picks it up and he holds it up. Where the hell am I on the screen? He holds it up and he goes wham and puts his fist through the seat. And then it kind of falls apart and smashes it with it. They go in, they do the finish, whatever. So the Battle Royal comes that night. And they got this thing where they hook you over the top rope. And I held on to this one guy. He was a young guy. I said, "Stay with me and don't let anyone near me. Just stay on me." So he's staying on me, and this one big German guy, because the other guys were staying away from Siva, he walked up to this big German guy. His name was Robert. I don't know who he was. He was making believe he was the ultimate warrior. And Siva gave him a heart punch. Poof! 2 hands. Let me see. Poof! 2 hands like that. Dropped him. Hit him with this. Well, Siva taught me like this. He said, "You see this? In Kung Fu, this is like a knife." And he hit him right here. And at the same time, he said, "This is the feminine hand." And when he came in like this, usually you see something coming, you move away. Well, here comes the feminine hand. And this is called close. And right here, you close. And when this hit here and this hit here, and it cut him open, the eyeball went boom. rolled him to the side, kicked him off. The EMT guys think it's a work, and then they see the guy's bleeding out all over the place. Well, he ended up in a trauma center for like 3 months. So right after that, Siva grabs me. We go over the top rope backwards together, and he fights me all the way to the locker room. But when we get through the door, it's not a locker room. You got to go up the stairs. Siva opens up a closet, shoves me in. The Dynamite Kid's not there. Dave Finley is, and all these other guys. We go in the closet. I'm in the closet, and Siva's watching as they're walking by. When they all go upstairs, he looks at me. He goes, "Now we go." And I'm like, holy shit. Well, it's 2 against 20. It's better than 1 against 20. And Siva is serious. So I'm going. I'm not going to not go. He's going. I've got no choice. I'm not a tough guy, but I'm going to stand and fight with him. And if I'm going to get killed, I guess I'm going to get killed. What are you going to do? You can't not go. You got to go. And I'm like, you really want to do this? He opens the door and pushes me in. Well, I'm inside. He slams the door. And he said, let me tell you guys something. You think I'm some sort of fucking piece of shit jabroni? He said, I send this kid over here to learn. You try to break his body, that did not work. He stayed. You try to break his spirit, that did not work. He stayed. Yes, I broke him in the business the easy way. My fault. If you have a problem with that, you have a problem with me. Now, you all are great wrestlers, but I can kill one of you. I can kill all of you. Like this. One, or, and he went like this. All of you. And a room of 20 badass motherfuckers were going, oh, Siva, listen, no. He said, no. From here on out, this is how it's going to be. And if anybody don't like it, you're going to find out real fast. The rest of that trip, Dynamite was gone in Japan. I worked with all of them. When they touched me, if I didn't watch what they were doing to me, I would have not known what to sell. That's how light they were. And there was one point where they brought Siva to Team B because I just didn't want to be there. They brought Siva to Team A from B. And I would drive Siva there, then we would go somewhere else to another show. And Tony Sinclair told me that he told them guys, hey, listen, don't mess with that American Kid because that's some one guy will kill you. He's not talking about punching you in the nose. He will take you and stop you from living. Do you understand? Do not mess with that American Kid. And that was the only time really I ever was afraid for my safety or someone really tried to hurt me where I was afraid, you know. And I wrestled with a lot of people. I worked with Barb, and brother, you could talk to Barb and he'll tell you, we only had one match, but he'll tell you it was a packed card and it was him and I in the first match. So you can imagine how packed of a card it was. I was the only no name. And he told me we'll do this, do that, and okay, whatever you like. And we're waiting to go out, and I'm going out first. And I said, Barb, I've been doing these independents now for a while. You're going to be the heel, babyface. And he goes, oh, no, I'm heel. I said, Barb, what are you going to do if they pop for you? He goes, well, if they pop for me, then I'm the babyface. I said, okay. So, I do my spiel. I'm very good on the mic. And then he came out. And, when you're that hot off the TV, no matter who you are, you're a babyface a lot of times. Unless you're in with another executive babyface, and then you're the executive heel. But because he was working against me, they knew they had to cheer for somebody, and it wasn't going to be me. Well, they cheered for him. He put his arms up. Brother, man, this is the Barbarian. There's nobody that's got a half a brain that doesn't know. This is a serious dude. And you ain't going to make him do anything he don't want to do. Brother, he sold for me like it was the most amazing thing. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I thought I was amazed that Jimmy would sell for me all night and just do a splash. But I just thought, because, you know, he loved me, that's why he did it. But it was about business. It was about making a baby face or making a heel. I didn't understand there was more to it than that. But I knew I could work at this point. I wasn't as green anymore. I knew how to listen to the people. I knew how to call a match. And this is like 98, 97, beginning of 97. And he went through the ropes. He threw himself out. He was into the people. He threw himself back in. I mean, I was so blown away. The finish, he throws me off the top, shoots me off. I duck his clothesline. Boom, he gives me the boot. I spin around. I come up. He puts me big, giant power bomb, but perfect. Doesn't drive you. He floats you. You know, you're a tall man. You can't drive somebody because the angle's going to be too deep and you're going to hurt him. He had me right here and floated me and just poof. And then he slid on me. 1, 2, 3. I said, I love you, brother. Thank you, because I love you too. And brother, he sold for me. I mean, it was just absolutely, you know, but like I said, here's a guy that could have broke me into pieces and took care of me. And look, I've been very fortunate. You know, you can imagine being me, because you've been in the business. I was so fortunate to express those things. And like I said, you know, it's like night and day. You know, you go over to England and they're just being stiff and snug and all this crap. And then you have a guy who can rip your head off completely, doesn't even touch you. And the match has got 100 times more heat. I mean, just amazing, fun. You know, if people, even the smartest marks, they don't know how much fun it could be, right? You know.
It has its fun side for sure. Someone on here is asking you about Tom Brandi. Did you ever work with him?
Oh my God, yeah, I worked with him as Tom Brandi, Johnny Gunn. I worked with him as Salvatore Sincere. I worked with him as the Patriot. Tom Brandi is a special guy. Tom Brandi, not only is he big, strong, handsome, he's got a heart of gold. He is funnier than funny can be. If you can imagine, I'm walking. He's like, Jeff, you dropped something. I turn around. I don't see anything. Keep walking. He goes, Jeff, you dropped something. I turn around. I don't see anything. He does it again. He's like, Jeff, how many times are you going to stop and turn around for you to figure out there's nothing there? I mean, the guy is sweet. The guy is nice. He's an excellent worker, can do anything, and he's got the best gimmick table in the business. It doesn't get any better than that. You know, he's got a lovely wife and children. I've stayed at his home. Last time I saw him, we were on the road together in West Virginia. We did a couple of shows together. He got me booked on when I was in between 2017, 2018, my last indie run. And I was really reasonably busy for an independent guy, you know, twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. That's pretty good for an indie guy. And, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And I love him to death. Absolutely love him to death. And by the way, you know, loved Jimmy as well, and we spent a lot of time all together, and we all had lots of fun. We all had lots of fun together. We really did. It was, whether it be matches or just, you know, having a dinner together, it was always a lot of fun.
The Guardian of Chaos is asking you thoughts on the late Al the Punisher.
Oh, Al. Here's a guy, this poor guy. He loved the business like me. He was a gimmick. He wasn't the best worker, but he had a head for it. He ran his own shows. He was a nice guy. He was kind of off the wallish, kind of freaky, nice kind of guy. Perfect for wrestling. He used to write songs, MIA, CIA, FBI. He was like into everything. And we used to stay at him and his girlfriend's house, and his girlfriend's daughter Carrie used to let us stay there. And Jimmy and Carrie dated just a little while there, very early on, way before he met his wife. Al, not too long before Jimmy's passing, got hit by a car, took a huge bump, and was healing up. And he wanted to go down to Jimmy's funeral, but he ended up dying in his sleep. And I don't know whether or not he took too much gimmick or, pain medicines, I don't know. I can't imagine him dying any other way, although he wasn't in his best shape in the world. I mean, it wasn't like he ran 7 miles a day, but he was a really sweet guy, kind guy. Definitely goofy, but we're all goofy, right? I mean, we're all goofy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the wrestling business, right? I mean, you know yourself better than anybody. I know myself better than anybody, and I know I'm goofy. We're all kind of goofy, right? In our own way. And
for sure, we're running around in our underwear, all oiled up for a living.
It's true. Somebody said, "Oh, you've done this and you've done this." Yeah, I painted my face, got on and off a plane, went to a hotel a lot of times, but I really didn't do anything. You people earned a living. You made homes. You got cars. You this. Yeah, but you chased your dreams. I said, "Yeah, with my thumb up my ass." But then again, they were right. We went. We left it out on the field. Things happen. Many different types of things can happen. Look at your situation. A terrible thing happened. You took lemons and made lemonade. It's hard. Nothing's easy in this world. Nothing worth having is easy. Otherwise, all of us would have everything. With me, yes, I was fortunate, but at the same time, you would think with all the people I knew, I could have made it to the biggies. But there's 100 spots. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of guys. And the both of us, regardless of the end result, we have lived something that very few people can say they did, and very few people will ever understand. And it's a special business, and it comes with special things that you carry with forever. And one thing is for certain, I know you'll know this is true. Anyone that's been in the business that isn't really in the business per se anymore, like in the ring or whatever, once you're one of us, you never see the rest of the world the same again. You always see it through those eyes of a wrestler who's working me, who's bullshitting me, who's the real deal. It gives you an edge in life, because most people don't know that you can see through them. Special kind of eyesight you get. Right? Am I right or wrong?
For sure, you look at it a little differently, as my dog wants to say hello to everybody. I think she likes your makeup. But where can people follow you? I know you're on Facebook. Do you have Twitter or any other social media where people can look you up?
The only thing that I have is the Metal Maniac fan page on Facebook. I don't try to sell gimmicks. I don't try to sell shirts, and I don't do any of that. I really don't do any kind of. I have my personal page, but really nothing on my personal page doesn't go through the Metal Maniac fan page and then it's bounced over to my personal page. My personal page really for my high school mates, but the Metal Maniac fan page is what it's called, and anyone, anywhere can go on. You can log in. I will tell you, it's not administrated by me, but the administrator within, if you post something and it's negative, it won't be there. You'll be blocked. He's not a negative guy. It's only positive stuff. There's no negativity about anything. It's not political in any way. It's just pictures that will eventually end up in a book that I'm working on, a treatment, or I would have had this thing already sold and done. But because of this big political thing that's going on and the COVID has really kind of shut everything down, because nobody's doing really anything until this is over. And even when you see stuff happening, it was already in the can before all this stuff happened. So let's say if you wanted new programming next year, I don't think you'll have any until this COVID thing is over. And they're going to end up doing a lot of reruns. I don't care if it's Netflix. I don't care if it's Apple, YouTube. I don't care what TV you look at. I don't care what it is. It's going to be a long time yet before. So I've got a little bit of time to finish the book treatment and my life with the Superfly. And I'm working on a screenplay for a movie, because really my story, from where I spoke to you about how I first met Jimmy at ECW and then going on the road with him, and stories I haven't even hit that are all over the world where we went, and all the things that happened, and mixing some of his stories into it, it would be 100 times better than the movie The Wrestler. That was a pretty good movie. I liked it a lot. And some of our friends are in it. But I just, I think that this particular story is going to be much different, because the athleticism is going to be there, and some of the fun stuff is going to be there. And yes, there's going to be a drama. Yeah, it's going to have some love in it. But yeah, it's going to have some fun in it as well. And it's not going to be so dark. And it'll have its dark moments. It'll have its light moments. It'll have its action, but it'll all a drama, whatever. But it's also going to have some of the fun stuff about it, and it's gonna have everything. And I just know that if it was in a theater, people are gonna laugh, they're gonna cry, and they're gonna cheer, and that's how it's gonna be. That's just what's gonna be. I'm just hoping that all this could stop, so the oxygen in the room is not sucked out by all this negative stuff that's going on. Just want it to be over for everybody. I want everybody to be happy and healthy. And I don't care where you are or what you're doing. Just I don't want to sound corny or anything, but just be as loving as you can, be as understanding as you can, and try to do whatever you can do for somebody who needs whatever they need. I mean, look at Hannibal. I felt like I just had the need to tell people some good things about Jimmy, not to rectify a little bit, to make people think critically about, hey, wait a minute. Well, what if Tonga Kid wasn't there? And what if Munchnick was pissed off, the father? And what if the daughter's father was who he was? And what does that mean? Oh, and one last thing I never said. Ponder this. Jimmy always used to call New York City Helltown for a reason. I never knew why until one day. Funny how women talk to me. I'm in a bar in South Jersey. This is probably a few months before Jimmy met his current wife, Carol. And we were at a bar. It was probably a 40s and up. And a woman who said she was friends with Jimmy's old manager, not Lou Albano, but what was the blonde guy's name? Oh God,
That's Johnny V. Oh no, Buddy Rogers.
Yes, Buddy Rogers. He was the slip and fall gimmick man. He'd worked that gimmick on every slip and fall place you could go. But so what happened was she told me, I saw this woman trying to get close to Jimmy. And, sometimes I'd have to protect him against women, because they would get like too crazy. I have to get in there and say, excuse me, take a step back. All right. You want to talk to him? Fine. Don't get too grabby. I literally have to tell people that. And Jimmy looked at me, bruh, you know what this is? It's my friend. I know her since I used to live down Cherry Hills. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I didn't know. I just saw some lady grabbing at you, bro. He says to her, tell him the story. So I sit down and she says, well, I'm going to tell you a story. I don't know if you know about it or not, but I'm just going to tell you a story. And because Jimmy said, tell you a story. And I'm sure this lady's dead, and I never knew who she was. I mean, I'd have to ask Jimmy, and God knows he wouldn't have remembered now if he was alive anyway, because his mind was shot. But this woman said to me, yeah, you know, one night Jimmy was caught in New York City at the Garden outside and was beaten by several men with baseball bats. And Buddy Rogers found him, put him in a car, and drove him to my house. And he stayed with me for about 2 weeks to heal up. And they didn't hit him in the head, but they did hit him all over his body. And eventually, you know, his family at the time lived in out west. And I don't want to give the name of the state because I don't want anybody to know where Jimmy's family lives or the children go. It's not people's business to go looking for, you know, the family. You know how people can be. So, and then we sent Jimmy out west, you know, and then I saw he was back on TV a few years later, and he looked very well, and I was just so glad to see him now. Okay, well, you know, I didn't really put any of this together till after Jimmy passed away, but that conversation was had. And sure enough, this had to be one of them guys. This had to be somebody. I never asked Jimmy about it. I never said to him, hey, bro, what's with this story? Nothing. He didn't say anything to me. Hey, bro, what do you think of that story? Nope. Because I came from a family, my grandfather in the 20s and 30s was a rough kind of guy. And, you know, he'd always told me, you know, you don't talk ever about anything. Remember that. Just the way they were back then, you know, old school. And, you know, I never put it together till later on. Think about that for a minute. What I told you about the girl, what I told you about what maybe happened with her mother. Who knows? Allegedly, maybe. Don't know. I'm just saying, that's what was told to me. Don't know if it's true or not. But it was said to me, and there's nothing wrong with saying what I heard. And I sure as hell didn't make it up. And for what reason? I could have just got on here and said, hey, look at what Fuji said. But add that to what Fuji said, because he said it. I didn't. He said it. And then I'm saying, well, if that's the case, well, it makes sense because some other lady told me that the father banned her from the house because she tried to stab the mother. Maybe she was on drugs. Maybe she was a hothead. Maybe both. I don't know. But what I do know is that woman said that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I'm telling you what I heard. Things to think about critically. There's too many people with too many angles. Oh, and by the way, one last and final thing I want to say about the bullshit that was put on TV. If I'm a multi-millionaire, if I'm a billionaire, if I'm a guy who has 300 grand in the bank and own a business, and I wear a suit to work, most probably I'm going to have a briefcase. As a matter of fact, if you're a goofy Jewish kid from New Jersey who happens to fall into a cold little spot and you make 50 to 100 bucks twice a week, but you're responsible for a bunch of responsibilities and you carry a briefcase, carrying a briefcase does not imply jack. So if anybody implies that somebody did something because he had a briefcase, I'll have you know, guys who run trucking companies, who drive a rig, 300 days a year, have a briefcase. It's not an odd thing to carry a briefcase, especially if you're have millions of dollars in cash and assets in a bank, and you're responsible for probably 100 people's, hourly or weekly or monthly or daily pay. It's not unheard of to keep books and records and not walk around with a bunch of papers in your hands with receipts for taxes. I think it makes perfect sense to Hannibal that it would make perfect sense to have a briefcase. And the haters should really think, wow, maybe Tonga forgets it was a different day, because they were together but then they weren't together. Wait, and then think about, if Jimmy used to pull over every damn time on the parkway to take a piss and didn't give a shit about the cops because he was famous, he knew he could get away with it. Well, maybe it does make sense that he was taking a piss on the side of the road in Allentown. Maybe it does make sense that he left her in a room and he didn't know to check her eyes to see if she had, a concussion. Did he know? He don't even speak English. Did he know to tell her stay awake no matter what? Put somebody with her? Now, other people said, oh, my girlfriend was friends with her. She was in the room and she came in and said, bah, bah, bah. It's easier to say that kind of stuff years later to just maybe get some excitement on your name, maybe. I don't know. Nevertheless, I'm just saying, think critically, folks. You want to hate somebody, hate him. Damn well have good reason. And you got none. Man gave his life to this business, gave his body to this business, and should be respected. And another thing, look at our business today, Hannibal. Look at where it went. Keep writing for guys who can't remember. Keep getting guys who can't do an interview. Look at me. Couldn't work a lick. But there's people watching this thing, including Hannibal himself, and knows you can put me in front of a microphone and I can do anything. And no one needs to write anything for me. No wonder Stone Cold walked out the first time and said, I'm not doing what the goddamn writers said. And if Fox had a brain in their head, they'd buy the whole damn thing, set it on fire, shut it all down, and put the goddamn tapes on from the 70s and the 80s and reteach the people and set those goddamn ECW films on fire, never to be seen again. They ruined the business. And look at all the people that went up to New York. And look at all the people who should have went to New York, like the pit bulls that were there for like 5 minutes that were never used correctly. All because of who? I'm not going to mention names. All because of who? All you smart people out there. All because of who? You follow what I'm saying? Do you people realize what's going on? I mean, really? The business is dead. Oh, and by the way, I love Dave Meltzer. He said a lot of nice things about me over the years and was great. One time, Johnny Mantel calls him up. He says, hey, brother, guess what? The Metal Maniac stood online and paid $5 in his gear to get a picture with Kerry Von Erich, which didn't happen. 2 weeks later, the sheets hit, and I come out to ECW, and everybody's holding $5 bills up. I didn't know what the hell was going on until after the match. Then they told me. And then from then on, I walked out with a $5 bill in my hand or a $5 bill on my chest. But Dave was in the locker room years before I broke into business under another name. He didn't say his name was Dave Meltzer, and he was putting it out then. But Dave was trying to earn a living. But the problem with that is he opened the door for everyone to know. It was all needs to be shut down. Plus, you got COVID. You got people wrestling in front with no people. Does any of this sound stupid? Because I mean, I'm not a worker. I'm a gimmick. And even I know this to be true. Shut it down. But look, Vince is not going to do it because he's been around too long. It's too much work. It costs too much money. And he's jaded. He's tired and he wants to retire. And Triple H knows too much too. Why bother? Just ride this out until someone buys it. I think Fox should buy the whole thing. I think because they're losing money on everything else, basketball, football, and everything else right now. So might as well take wrestling, make a big investment, buy all the films and only put certain films on, make a deal with the greatest two minds I've ever met, which is Jim Cornette and Don Morocco, and rebuild the business from the bottom up. Not just have some agents with a bunch of guys that they're friends with to vacuum the money out like WCW and end up with no nothing. And then what I'd do is, if I was Fox, I'd bring in every independent company and I'd sit them down and say, we're all going to work together. From the smallest company to the biggest company. And I'd make sure the guys were trained by licensed professionals. I would make sure the guys had medical. They had like a SAG card. And that they had a union. Can you imagine? You're Fox. You're on the outside. You come in, you buy something, and you find out the only set of guys that are working here that are not union are the wrestlers. They must have thought, what kind of business is this? I mean, yeah, the numbers are there, but what kind of business is this? They're up from the outside.
That's one thing that I'll just say quickly, too. When they I don't know if you've done acting, but now wrestlers are on TV shows. They're performing stunts that have been written by writers, like this one that Matt Hardy recently got injured from. That was a choreographed, pre-planned stunt on a television show, but they're not part of the union, and there's not like a stunt choreographer. It doesn't make sense. They are actors. They should have the benefits.
This is the thing. Obviously, Vince had to let the cat out of the bag to get rid of the New York State Athletic Commission because they want their $10 per guy every year. But Vince had more than enough money to pay them and tell them, listen, send a doctor, make sure everybody's heart sounds pretty good, and we'll pay $10 a year. But don't give me any bullshit, all right? Otherwise, I will blow it up. And they would have backed off. But I know the guys in New York State Athletic Commission. One time, one of the guys was trying to say that Jimmy's money wasn't paid for his $10 for the year. I said, really? I said, because Jimmy and I come together, we get paid together, we leave together, we do our EKGs together, and we came into the city together. Jimmy was driving around while I ran inside and did mine. And when the cops seen Jimmy driving the car and he told what he was doing, waiting for me, they pulled up in front of the building and they had 4 cop cars guarding Jimmy. I came down. Jimmy went in with the 2 cops. They got the EKG inside. They gave the $10. Boom, boom, stamp, stamp. And we left. It was done. And the guy was trying to say, hey, and I told him, I said, you cost this man a nickel, and I'm going to have a team of Jewish lawyers up your ass Monday morning. So you want to play games? You're not playing with the promoter. You're playing with me. And then they backed off and let him work. We're only 5 minutes. I said, listen, he will go and he will work and he will do as he sees fit. You want to play games with his money? Try me. Sure enough, Monday morning. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. Yeah. Metal Maniac. Yeah. You better be right. And don't ever do that again. So screw the New York State Athletic Commission. But you're right. The guy does a move. It's written. But this is the thing. One time I worked with these stunt coordinators and they were going to have a breakable table. I said, you can't use the breakable table. Why? It's easier. I go, no, you'll be dead. What do you mean? If you go through that table, you're going to get hurt. I'd rather you have a hard table without the bars that snaps, that will slow your speed down so you do not hit the floor directly. Oh, that's how you do it? Yeah. You guys stunt coordinators are good for sugar glass and falling into a bed and all that stuff. That's your stuff. Jumping over, canyons and driving a car on two wheels. That's your stuff. This is not your stuff. But you're right. We should have a union. People, we are doing acting, but at the same time, there's no acting. When you take a bump, you feel it. Now, maybe, you get used to it after a while, but now, when you don't work,
they're the ones that call it storytelling now. They don't even call it wrestling. They call it storytelling, and their performers are storytellers. But yet they're not in the actors union. That's the only issue I have.
What do they call it, brother? They call it
storytelling,
entertainment, wrestling entertainment.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't say WWE on it. It says WW. What is WW?
It still stands for World Wrestling, but they call their wrestlers storytellers now, and they tell the wrestlers to refer to themselves as storytellers. So they don't like the word wrestling, but they don't want to give their performers the benefits of union and benefits in a retirement plan.
But even as an actor, they still should, because you're using your body like a stuntman. And if stuntmen get paid, so should these other stuntmen who paint their faces, who call themselves cannibals. Who's a cannibal? Should have all had the card. But I think Fox would be glad to do that. I have a friend who's one of the higher executives, and I said, I wish you would have called me before. I would have told you, if you're going to buy it, buy everything and do this, because this is the only way this is going to happen. So it's I honest to God wish that, and I wish they would just call me and say, listen, this is what we're doing. I spoke to him, actually. I gave him a call a couple weeks ago. I said, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I think you should do. I didn't tell him who to get or what to do. I just said, I know who to get, and I know what it's going to take financially to do it. And I know that right now you have everyone at home at mercy, and you could entertain people. During 9/11, if it wasn't for wrestling, people would have went cuckoo. And they are, because there's a lot of garbage, whatever they're looking at, and they could be looking at, like we're talking about, entertainment that is athleticism at its best. And entertaining. Look, people go to the movies. They know it's not real, but boy, they get into them. God knows how many movies I've enjoyed over the years. And I'm sure you have a couple of favorites. So there's nothing wrong with they can call whatever the hell they want. The bottom line is, my body hurts. I used to take that Ric Flair slam off the top in the center. One of my discs in my center, my back hurts every day. I put ice on it. I lay down on it every day. It hurts a little bit. Cervical spinal fusion, C6, C7. One of the guys picked me up and went for a slam, and I slid out of his arms. I landed on my head. That irritated it. Another guy power bombed me incorrectly, and if you look on my Facebook, on the Facebook thing, you see I take a power bomb and my leg went limp. Billy Caputo counts 1, 2, 3. Thank God, but my leg was limp and it was hanging on the rope, and literally went right to the hospital from there. And then they shipped me to California, and this guy Montesano did my neck. It was C6, C7, one single, and within 8 months I was back in the ring. Thank God. So and it still hurts till this day a little bit, where my arm feels funny and my thumb feels funny and my neck feels funny, and I was able to work after it. Thank God. But the business should be different. Everything should be different. Everything is upside down. What's right is wrong. What's wrong is right. And I think that it can be fixed. And the way to do it is really to burn it to the ground and just give them what they want to see. The shows with people in the seats, get excited about those guys and reteach people, and then introduce everybody from the ground up. And I'd get together every single one of the wrestling promotions across the country. I'd have them meet a certain expectation to be a certified trainer place or AAA place, like the baseball people have AAA, and we work their way through, and then territories, and have them all be a part of their TV in a slow spinning motion, and bring it up while the COVID's going on. Once COVID is gone, boom, introduce your guys, and you have a complete setup, and you start off, and it can be done. You know, there's a guy right now can do anything the Undertaker can do. He's 7 foot and he can work. His name's the Meadowlands Monster, Lou Bruno. Nice, sweet guy, can do anything. But, you know, he has to work with all these guys that are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and they want him to take a bump. I keep telling him, but you can't do that. He said, yeah, but they cry and scream and yell and holler, God damn it, blah, blah, blah. So I don't care. Put your foot in their face and tell them, no. Sometimes you may have to do that so it works way around the locker room. You may not have to beat 20 guys up, but just one. So it goes around the locker room so they listen to you. I said, but you're not in that point yet because you don't have that maturity to know. You're just trying to get through the day and make everybody happy and you somehow, you know, be a part of something. And he deserves a you know, what do you call it, a spot. Like me, I paid my dues. I can talk. I show up on time. Well, don't start in with yesterday and today, okay? Don't say anything because this is, you know. But I've never been late for a haircut. That'd be a first. So, you know, it's just one of those things. But Jim Cornette would probably have a heart attack, but I would pay him so much money, his heart would just, it would calm. It would be soothed to know that, you know, he'll never have to worry, and his family will never have to worry, and their generation will never have to worry, because he's probably the only one with a quick enough mind, and Don has a lot of television balance too, and they can use the two shows and work off each other, and I think they would do really well. I think they would, and I just wish that something like that would happen. But brother, I just want to tell you, man, really appreciate you having me on to say some nice things about my brother Jimmy. Not to let the haters get in on it. Not to drag it into another place that I didn't want to go with it. I know there's a lot of people that either don't know me or like me or don't like me out there, and I'm just appreciative of you seeing to it that this was something that was a positive thing. I appreciate you coming on. I know you have a lot of videos, and you know you have a lot of people watching what you do, and I'm sure this will be on YouTube and it'll be around a long, long time. And I appreciate you, you know, letting me wear my face paint and just, you know, saying my gimmick, Metal Maniac, and or you could find me at the Metal Maniac fan page and on Facebook only. That's all I do. And like I said, I just appreciate you. You're a real decent, kind person. As I told you when I reached out to you before, when I first reached out to you, that in fact, not because that you were in a position and a platform, but because not only that, but because of what happened to you, that you understood what it's like to be wronged, and how hard it was to bend that back and to fix it and to get past it and to make sure certain people paid a toll and continue to make sure they pay a toll. I don't know if that toll was paid yet, but I really hope that one day that toll gets paid.
It's not over. It's not over.
Well, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and the fat lady hasn't sung yet. And as long as you're living and breathing, and even then, if your family outlives you, and God willing that doesn't happen, God willing that you outlive everybody, and I'm just so happy that you're with us. I'm so happy that you're healthy, and you know you made it through. I don't know if I could have made it through. I don't know if most people could have made it through. And like I said, I when I reached out to you, I knew you were a good person. Yeah, once in a while we get a little crazy. Once in a while we got to slap somebody around a little bit once in a while. But that's only because they asked for it. Not because you woke up that day and said, I feel like punching somebody. So, there's a tiger and there's always a lion at the zoo, and the zoo and keeper has a sign and it says, don't feed the lions. Not because they don't want you to enjoy yourself, but because they know that fence, even though it's very high, if a lion wants to get over it, it will get over it, no matter how high it is. And when they come over, you will get mauled. So if anyone's ever been slapped, my father used to tell me, well, you didn't do nothing wrong. No, I didn't do anything wrong. I was in the library. I didn't cut the class. I didn't finish the paperwork. She said she called after she called the house. Didn't tell me she spoke to you. So now I got a licking. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. You got a licking today, maybe because it was a mistake, but you just chalk it up to all the things I didn't know about. But the bottom line is, he always told me, you don't get a smack if you didn't really ask for it. And I've seen it dish out one or two, and somebody asked for it. And if it's not, well, it's okay. You can always say you're sorry and mean it. Right? You can always say you're sorry and mean it. Move on.
And to close this off, Dynamite Kid's dead. I know you had your issues with him, so there's no point cutting a promo on him. But Finley's still alive.
He's right. I had said to you, he was right. He was right. He was teaching me respect for the business. He knew I was green, but he didn't like that I was green. But nevertheless, I know I had heard he did other things to other people. That never happened. All that happened was what happened to me, and it got fixed. And after then, it was completely cool. But David Finley, needed to be put into the place. Oh, and by the way, I will say this. I never told Barb the story that I told you. I told him much later. Because if I'd have told Barb, he'd have told Haku. And when that match happened between Finley and Haku, it would have went right back to Siva Afi. And that foot would have went boom. And David Finley might be walking a little bit funny today. But I didn't say anything because they were actually right. They were trying to teach me.
Well, Finley seems like a real dick the few times I've met him. So to close this off, let's say you were having a match with Finley tonight. Give these fans a sample of the promo skills you were telling us about earlier to close this interview off. Cut a promo on Finley, that useless Irish drunk.
All right. Well, I never use dirty words or dirty language. So let's just put it like this. Okay. This is the Metal Maniac. And tonight, you're going to see me against the Dave Finley. The Dave Finley. Now, Dave Finley's an excellent wrestler. Dave Finley can do it all. Dave Finley's a tough guy. Dave Finley can go all day, any day, however, which way you want to go. Whether it be New York style, Japan style, the easy way, the light way, however you want to do it. But I'm a little bit too old. So my partner today would be the one, if I had a choice of who it was, I would say today would have to be, his name would be the Barbarian. His name would be Mang. And pretty much what it's going to be, it's not going to be all that English style. It's not going to be the Irish style. It's not going to be all this bull crap that you think that you're going to do. What's going to happen is you are going to call home and you're going to make sure that your insurance is paid up, because there's a toll to pay, and that toll is about to get paid today. Get ready. Now, that's what I would tell them. But really, honest to God, a good promo would be, it's the Metal Maniac, the greatest ever, coming to you live from the pinnacle of professional wrestling one more time. with Hannibal the Cannibal on Hannibal TV. Learn to love it, as Mr. Flair used to say, baby. From the Hawaiian Islands, this is the Metal Maniac.